Hello and welcome to this next episode of Love, Life, and Energy. You're going to absolutely love this episode. We have a very, very special guest. Her name is Dana. She's a survivor of a narcissistic abusive relationship, and she's come out the other side, triumphed. She's now in a beautiful, loving relationship. You're going to love this. Stay tuned. Hey, my name is Michelle Chung, and I'm a live manifestation expert, which means I help women manifest their soulmate live in person, offline. And I help career-driven, A-type alpha women find their man so they can have the amazing, committed, and effortless relationship they deserve. So welcome, Dana. I'm so excited to have you here. Thank you so much for
Thank
being
you so
here.
much for having me.
Yay, amazing. When I saw a bit of your bio, I was just so intrigued because I have a lot of women coming to my webinars saying, yep, done that narcissistic relationship. So I'd love for you to share a bit about your story. Well, firstly, let me introduce you. You're actually an author of three books now. Your first book being Gasping for Air, The Stranglehold of Narcissistic Abuse. And you're a relationship and trauma expert. And you're onto your third book now. So can you tell us a little bit
Yes.
about, firstly, the relationship and then I guess that's how the books came about.
Yes, that is how the books came about. It's sad that so many people can relate to this because I didn't even know until I started doing this podcasting about the book that 1 in 3 women are in a relationship with a narcissist. And
Gosh,
that's pretty scary to me,
that's quite
considering
high.
what I've been through. It is quite high. And what's even scarier, and I'm just throwing this out there because I'm a statistics person, 38% of all women murdered are murdered by their partner.
Oh, that is
38%. So that's equivalent
scary.
to that 1 in 3. And that bothers me because not all narcissists are bad. Some are just annoying and have a
Not,
really inflated sense of self-esteem. But they're not trying to kill you. But unfortunately, I spent 25 years with one who is far on the other end of that spectrum, what we call a malignant narcissist,
wow.
this is where domestic violence happens. These are, I think at least here in the US, they say almost 30% of all men in prison are identified as these malignant narcissists. And mine, 25 years, and he wanted me dead. And I'm still standing, I'm still here, and I'm smiling, I'm happy. So I want people to know you can come out the other side of this and hopefully go on to a healthier relationship like I have. Or no relationship. You can also be alone, and that's just fine too. But yes, it was a ride. It was, from day one. That's where my book opens up, actually, is the first time I met him. I was working in my office. He walked in, and immediately he was aloof. He had just in his body language, you could tell there was a sense of arrogance and entitlement. And I'm like, oh, I was raised by the king of all narcissists, and my mother had narcissistic qualities, and I had been abused. So I was like, no, I'm good. I'm not feeding into this. I want no part of this. So I was kind of cool and distant with him. But unfortunately, that childhood, which is the second book I've written, because everyone was like, how did you get this way? Well, childhood primed me for it. But that book's coming out in October. But I couldn't stand that this guy was kind of dismissive of me. That people pleaser in me had to have his approval. So as put off as I was, I, in the same respect, wanted, some attention, I suppose, from him. I wanted him to at least like me or show some sense of decency in how he treated me, just courtesy even.
Yeah.
And he barely managed that. I don't think he did, actually. But I was so eager for it that in this professional relationship that we entered into, very quickly, I found myself like a little puppy, like, trying so hard, like, come on, please like me, give me that
Yeah.
little treat. And eventually he did. He gave me that little treat. But I found out 25 years later that they were just little treats to keep me appeased and to shut me up and to keep me in my place because, as I found out very quickly also, there were a lot of rules.
Mm.
Sometimes they were told to me that I don't like this. I don't like when you wear that. I don't want you to say this. I don't want you hanging out with that person. Towards the end of our marriage, I actually still have, and this is also in my book, Gasping for Air. Twice in our marriage, he wrote rules for me, actually wrote, and I
Wow.
still have a page, which I
Written
included in
out.
the book, How to Be a Good Wife, no
Wow.
less. Yeah, that's insulting on so many levels. There was so much there. So, anyone that's out there, we all know people that are on social media taking pictures of themselves. They have the abs, or if they're girls, they have the lashes and the hair and the body and the whole thing. They might be annoying. Usually they look as good as they think they do, though. Like, we can't hate on them too. But I do warn of anybody that you enter, whether it's a friendship, a family relationship, a romantic relationship, like I did, unfortunately, where somebody is demeaning you, insulting you, stripping you of basically any sense of your own identity and the things that make you uniquely you. That is a problem. And when you add in the vulgar language, the mistreatment, if there's physical abuse, sexual abuse, financial abuse, all these other things that I also endured, that is a problem. That is not how anybody should be treated, specifically by somebody who says, I love you. Or even if you're not to the love point, I like you. Even
Mm.
if you're just dating and they are committed to you in some sense, even in the dating realm, that is not how you treat somebody that you have any kind of affection for. So listen to your gut, people. We all have this best friend that we just clicked when we met them, right? You just met them and it just was easy, and they could finish your sentences and you think alike and you just laugh and everything's wonderful and you could go to them and cry about whatever. Why we don't do this with romantic relationships is beyond me, and I'm guilty of it, obviously. But please, that's my biggest advice to anybody. Listen to yourself. I am remarried now. Granted, I knew this man's family the last 20 years. I'd known him a good part of that, at least half of that. I had no idea because he was busy being married and getting divorced, and I was busy, trying not to let my ex-husband kill me, and, all these things in life that I had no idea until he was there, at the end of my marriage. He was very supportive, as many people did kind of show up in my life to say, you're not alone. We got
Wow.
you. We're going to protect you. And with him, it was that click. It was
Wow.
like, okay, like I knew we got
This is
along and we
easy.
were well
Yeah.
acquainted, easy. There
Yes.
was even, and the biggest thing I learned from being with a man who was healthy, and obviously there's nothing wrong with me. I will never say I'm broken or damaged, but I had a lot to get through mentally and physically, because of what I had been through. I didn't know that I could have a disagreement with somebody and still laugh and smile. I
Mm.
didn't know that we could be at odds, but still hold hands, and that nobody was going to try to physically hurt me or threaten me, or that I would be given the silent treatment for a month. Like,
Wow.
there's all these things that opened my eyes to what love really is and what caring about somebody really is. And if it's not with the person you're with, get a clue. There's somebody out there waiting for you, and it might not happen on your timing, but it will happen if you know what to look for.
Wow. That's amazing. That's an incredible story. And I love how your advice is about looking for those external clues. You have a quiz on your website that everyone can go check out. I'll put the
Yes.
link in the show notes below. But it's so true, isn't it? Like, we're all told about these red flags, but when you're in that relationship, you don't think that they're red flags. You just think that's just how it's meant to be, especially when you said about your upbringing being similar to that. So it had conditioned you to thinking this is normal.
100%. Well, and I watched my mother. In my second book, which is about the childhood, it's called Choking on Shame. It'll be out in October. I talk about how she would excuse, enable, and tolerate. She
Yes.
excused his behavior
Yeah.
She enabled it and she tolerated it. So what did I do? I was excusing, enabling, and tolerating. But take all that out of it, any of us. I mean, like, I remember the first time, he was a little more overreactive than I would have liked. I was like, well, maybe he had a bad day. I mean, the reasonable
Right.
part of me was
Yes.
like, we all have that. Like,
That
that
excuse.
well, I
Yeah.
wake up in a bad mood sometimes, believe it or not. Like
Yeah.
it happens to everybody. You want to give those graces to people.
Of
And then
course.
look at what we're taught. We're taught relationships are give and take, there's sacrifices. So you have all
Yeah.
these things in your head saying, oh, I'm not going to just end a relationship over this.
Yeah. I have
But
to
the
fight
problem
for it.
is
Yeah.
this keeps happening and it
Yeah.
keeps happening and it keeps happening and it keeps happening.
Yeah.
And
There's
to what
no,
extent,
exactly. There's
you
no
know?
self-protection for women in a traditional marriage situation because we're told that we have to stick with our partners. I know women who, mothers who have little kids and they don't have work or income, so they
Yes.
feel like they can't leave. And I think that's what traps a lot of women, and th that is the major, part of this domestic abuse, having no choices to leave.
That is 100% true. That is one of the biggest reasons people come to me and say, I wish I could do what you did. But
Yeah.
here's the thing, and some people aren't going to like me saying this, whether you're 19 years old and just dating somebody, or you're 39 years old and you got a few kids and you're 15 years into this marriage, you have choices. You
Yes.
have your own mind. You know what's in your heart. And I am promising you, I don't care where you are in this world. Yes, the world needs to catch up in the resources that are available, but there are resources and there are people like me and you and everywhere that are not going to let children be out on the streets cold or starving or without clothing or without going to school. If you get to the right resource, the right organization, the right person, they will make sure you have a place for you and your kids to lay your head at night. They will make sure you have a place where you are safe and that person cannot touch you if he's ever laid his hands on you before. There are resources. People just have to stop telling themselves that they don't have options, because
Yes.
there are options. They're not maybe what you want them to be, and it's not fun. But I have seen, just real quick, it's not my place to tell her story, but somebody that I did connect with a few years ago, she was being physically abused, as well as the two boys, both of her sons with this man, both of them autistic. Um, they ended up leaving in the middle of the night. They were on the street. She said the one day all they could find in a garbage to share between the three of them was a piece of toast. And
Wow.
they were sad. They had to leave their pets. They had to leave that life, but they're doing well now. They have a
Oh,
home.
fantastic.
The kids are doing well in school. They have food. They have, like, everything will be okay. That is a worst case scenario, though. That doesn't happen to most people.
Yeah.
It just, there were circumstances, but is it better to stay and potentially let this person harm you? I mean, I hope most cases won't get to that point, but like, my book is called Gasping for Air because you hear the scratchiness in my throat.
Mm.
I actually developed a rare lung disease as a
Wow.
result of living in fight or flight mode for so long. All
Yes.
that stress hormone cortisol was running through me because of the toxicity of that relationship, that it
Wow.
made me autoimmune and gave me this lung disease that the doctors say is like having COPD and fibromyalgia all at once. And I
Wow.
jokingly call it my souvenir from my first marriage that I'll have with me the rest of my life. But not everybody has to do that, because everybody has choices. I chose to stay for my reasons. Other people choose to stay for theirs, but there's always choices that you can make to leave that as well. It's never too late.
That's amazing. That's so inspirational. I think when you mention about those external that external almost checklist, those red flags that you can look for, I was also thinking, and this is a lot about what I teach with my audience and my students as well, is that you have to really know yourself first in order to see those
Yes.
red flags. Because if you don't know your own boundaries, your own values, and your own limits, how can you know that those external red flags are not good for you, that they are going to harm you? Because if you don't have that self-love and that self-worth, I know it sounds really cliche and everyone always talks about it, right? But it really is the essence of a healthy beautiful, abundant life. Because if you don't know yourself, how can you know where you stop and where someone else starts?
Well, it's interesting you say that because that's about where my book ends,
Yeah.
Gasping for Air. That is when I decided to leave that man, was when I won't call it self-love. I called it self-respect. I had enough
Yes.
respect for my health and for my
Yes.
body and the rest of my life to remove myself. But my third book, which I just got done writing and hopefully will be out next year, delves into what you just said. I mistook that self-respect for self-love. I thought, oh, I
Right.
got it now. I figured it
Interesting.
out after all this time. Remarried. It wasn't until after we married because there was a bunch of drama, and it's a good read just for that aspect alone. But it wasn't until after our first, because we got married twice,
Wow.
after our first wedding, that some things happened that I realized, oh my gosh, all those same, demons from the past, all those triggers, all those things had caught up to me. The love, the happily ever after I thought I'd have, all this stuff, that self-love I was proclaiming, it wasn't really self-love. I hadn't gotten there yet. And I
Mm.
had to go through more trials and tribulations, and I felt like life had to keep hitting me over the head with lessons that I would have rather have not learned the way that I had to, till I finally was like, okay, I get it now. I can stand on my own 2 feet now. Like, I get it. I am loving myself. I am honoring myself. I am taking the responsibility to go get that therapy that I fought so hard to,
Yes.
to have to do, and to deal with all that stuff. But it is the beautiful thing when you can achieve that. Have
Yes.
I fully achieved it? No, but I think that people also have this misconception that you go to therapy or you
You're
get
fixed.
out of those relationships, and
Yes.
like your fairy godmother waved a magic wand and everything's just fine. And it's
Yes.
not that way. If you want that six pack of abs, or that nice body, you got to work out. You got to do it consistently. You
Exactly.
can't just stop. It goes away. So
Yes.
it's the same thing mentally. And even if you are mentally well, you want to maintain that. Just like somebody with a really nice toned body still has to physically work out to maintain
Yes.
it. So, I encourage everybody, I don't care where you are and what you've been through, whether it's with a friend having coffee or with a therapist or goat yoga or whatever it does, that rocks your boat, you can find some way to, deal with the things that, are bothering your soul, because I think we all
Mm.
deserve to live in peace and to be happy. And if nothing else, just present, because that's when you're most open. That's when you're going to feel most fulfilled. And I mean, just being in that moment now, I just feel like I've missed so much of my life because I was so worried about the past or so concerned about the future that I failed to live those moments and be really present in the
Yes.
now. And that's where life happens, and that's where the
Yes.
beauty of it exists.
100%. And I think we're so used to living in the past and being in almost that depressive, regretful state, or being
Yes.
so anxious and living in the future. And really, the spiritual part of our lives is to live in the present. And that's where our
Yes.
subconscious is, that's where our superconscious is. This is where all the magic happens in the present moment.
100%. Yeah. So hopefully we can get everyone there, or at least motivate them to want
Yeah,
it.
I think we are moving towards that realm of consciousness in humanity where there are a lot of, turbulent things happening in the world, a lot of, you know, things breaking up, relationships breaking up, governments breaking up,
Yes.
outbreaks of health stuff, as we know with COVID. And people are starting to wake up and people are starting to say
Yeah.
no more. And we need to have these wake up calls. Otherwise, people live in this numbness and just continue with life and just keep putting up with stuff. Like you said, the cortisol, and this is the way it's supposed to be. And we need to realize that
Yeah.
life is meant to be easy and beautiful and creative and work for us.
Yes. And I appreciate you saying that, because I think that we also have this kind of loss of consciousness in the world, that we think, oh, I'm just one person. How can I change? Well, guess
Yes.
what? If you're present, and I tell people, just start with something simple. if you're living with somebody or whoever you see regularly every day, whether it's a husband, a partner, a coworker, your children, just be kind, give grace and give kindness. I don't care what religion you are, what ethnicity, what culture, what country, you can do that. And
Yeah.
that little bit that you give of yourself hopefully will impress upon them so they give that, and we have a domino effect. I'm not
Oh,
saying we're going to sit
100%.
around in a circle and kumbaya, but you have to take some responsibility. I can't change the world, you can't change the world, not on our own, but
Correct.
giving that little bit of kindness and grace to other people in consideration, because we're all just trying to get through this life experience, and the
Mm.
world could use to be a little bit nicer, because there are people that are going through real stuff, and all of us do at some point. And we just need some kindness. We just need some person to make us smile, to give us that compliment, to make us laugh, or just give us a hug, because that's all that they can give us at that moment. And
Oh,
that makes everything better just in that present time. So that's my encouragement for the day. And I would ask everybody to do that. You can do one thing every day. Just give that little kindness to somebody.
oh, 100%. And it comes from that concept of giving first, not giving back.
Yeah,
It's tithing in the
exactly.
purest sense. It doesn't cost you anything. If you don't have money, you can't give it. That's okay. Give kindness and love, and that's beautiful. What a beautiful,
100%.
beautiful last thought. Thank you so much. And
Thank
how can
you.
people get in touch with you?
I would say go to the website, danasdiaz.com. Links for Facebook and Instagram are on there. I'm on TikTok also, but I haven't linked that to my website. So just go there and find me, Dana S. Diaz. Links for the first book are on there. Second book will be out in October. You can sign up for the email list so you get updates on the next two books. But yeah, definitely seek me out. Follow me, take the narcissistic abuse quiz. Definitely is eye-opening. You might find when you take the quiz that you didn't realize this was abuse or that was abuse. But if somebody is diminishing your spirit in any way, or, disrespecting you, time to call it quits, probably. It's not going to get
100%.
better.
100%. This is really, really helpful and really, really valuable. Thank you so much. It's been such a pleasure speaking with you and hearing about your story. And I know this will definitely help a lot of listeners out there. And they can definitely keep in touch with you and follow your journey as well as you grow and
Yes.
grow.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you. And I hope we can have you on again next time.
Absolutely.
Fantastic. Thank you. Thanks, everyone. And if you'd like to know a little bit more, make sure you check out the show links below. You'll see Dana's website. And if you're interested in how to manifest your soulmate, as Dana has done for herself, she's got in a beautiful new relationship. If you'd like to meet your soulmate, just like Dana has, make sure you check out my webinar. The show notes, the links are there below in the show notes. Make sure you check that out. And if you have any questions, get in touch with me. It's at Michelle Chung Coach on Instagram. And we'll see you guys next time.